Hello everyone, and today I'll tell you about the latest news in the world, but in the Fox News at 4-5. And then, very interesting discourse, Donald Trump flaunts MAGA global domination. Let's go to watching.
Donald Trump plotting MAGA global domination. The president-elect holding his second news conference at Mar-a-Lago since wiping the floor with the Dems back in November, Harold. He kicked things off by blasting Biden for trying to sabotage his administration after Joe announced a ban on new offshore drilling. Take it away, Donnie.
We are inheriting a difficult situation from the outgoing administration, and they're trying everything they can to make it more difficult. Inflation is continuing to rage, and interest rates are far too high.
It's very serious, yeah.
President Biden's actions yesterday on offshore drilling, banning offshore drilling, will not stand. I will reverse it immediately. They told me that we're going to do everything possible to make this transition to the new administration very smooth. It's not smooth.
Trump then outlining his plans to export MAGA globally. He's eyeing a Panama Canal takeback, scheming to make Greenland great again. Today, he sent his son Don Jr. to scope out the property. Trump also twisting Canada's arm for a merger with the U.S. And he wants to give the Gulf of Mexico a new name.
We're going to be changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, which has a beautiful ring.
Your references to Greenland and the Panama Canal, so forth. Can you assure the world that as you try to get control of these areas, you are not going to
It's a very important problem.
use military or economic coercion?
No. We need them for economic security. The Panama Canal was built for our military. But we need Greenland for national security purposes.
Are you also considering military force to annex and acquire Canada?
No. Economic force.
Okay.
Because Canada and the United States, that would really be something.
It's so very important.
You get rid of that artificially drawn line, and you take a look at what that looks like, and it would also be much better for national security.
A man, a plan, Panama. But Canada's outgoing prime minister and black-faced enthusiast disagrees. Justin Trudeau quoting on X, "There isn't a snowball's chance in hell that Canada would become part of the U.S." And other Canucks are mad.
To the president, I'll make him a counteroffer. How about if we buy Alaska and we'll throw in Minnesota and Minneapolis at the same time?
Hey, Donald, have we got a deal for you? You think we want to be the 51st state? Nah, but maybe California would like to be the 11th province. How about it? California, Oregon, Washington?
Whoa.
I think I saw her in an insurance commercial. So, Jesse, okay, this renaming stuff, it's largely symbolic, but at least he's renaming something on behalf of America. When the Dems rename things, whether it's Columbus Day or schools, it's to reduce America's patriotism. It's like, we can't name it after a president. We can't name it after Christopher Columbus.
It's very serious moments today,
We have to denigrate America. He's saying, Gulf of Mexico? Nah. Gulf of America.
And how are you going to disagree with that?
Yeah.
You can't. So you're going to come out against America? What are you, for the Mexicans? Permission to make an analogy?
Permission granted.
This is like Tyrus. Tyrus's neighborhood. And Tyrus is kind of like the neighborhood watch, the one-man neighborhood watch. And he happens to also have the biggest house in the neighborhood, and he also happens to be a trillionaire. And one day, Tyrus takes a stroll in the neighborhood, looking around, and he sees a house that is next door that he likes. And he knocks on the door, knock, knock. How much? Oh, this house is not for sale. Well, of course it is. How much? Oh, this house is not for sale. Well, I can take it by force.
It's a very more much.
Or you guys can sleep on it, and maybe tomorrow you can tell me what the price is. That's where we are with Trump. He is America's real estate tycoon. So he's testing the waters. He's flexing his muscle. He's just seeing what's possible out there and trying to find out the new contours of the new world order and ultimately trying to get a better deal for America. And I think the grand strategy is create a North American trade, energy, and security network that gets
Yeah.
the best terms for us. Now, I looked into Greenland.
No, you didn't.
I did. So the pros of
It's very fantastic.
Greenland are a lot of minerals, great. You could project a lot of force to counter Russia through there. But it's also a very poor country. And we basically do whatever we want there anyway. And it would really piss off Denmark and all of Scandinavia. And they would ruin our access to the North Sea and the Baltic. See, I did study, Greg. And then in terms of Panama, yes. I definitely think they need to reduce the transit rates because we're getting ripped off every time we sail through there. But I don't want to occupy that stupid country. It's run by cartels. That'd be a mess. Canada. At first, I wanted it, and I tried to divide it into 2 states. And then I realized we'd be adding Montana, basically, for the Republicans, and electorally like a Texas for the Democrats. And I don't like that. But the fact that they don't want us to take them over makes me want to invade. I want to quench my imperialist thirst.
And good for you. You know, Harold, Donald Trump was talking about the transition, and he's right. It's as disturbing as Rachel Levine's. Here you have, it's such a contrast because I've never seen this kind of overlap before in a transition where you have this competent president.
So we're serious, yeah.
Who is doing things, you know, that the voters ask, and then this kind of cardboard construct that is Joe Biden basically crapping on what's left of the country, kind of like an ex. You know, Biden's like a bitter ex that's taking all of your belongings and throwing them out on the lawn because you dumped her. Isn't that true, Harold?
It's good to be with you. I was looking forward to an in your face, but I'll wait to the end of the show. I think a couple of things. It's good to be around the table. Welcome, Rosanna. I think it's good to be, it's a couple of things. First, I think the president, I try to view this in its most favorable light because I think this is strange what he's doing. But I think in the most favorable light is he's talking about the Gulf of America or talking about Canada.
There's no real, no.
Canada and Greenland. I want to think he's trying to send a message to President Xi saying, look, if you're talking about Taiwan to the Russians, if you're going to invade Ukraine, then we can do this perhaps by using economic sanctions. I think the other way to look at it, which I think some people will, people who are versed in foreign policy will say, it's almost the equivalent
very more people,
in some ways of saying, if you're going to cross, when the president said there's an artificial line separating us and Canada, it sounds a lot like what Putin talked about with Ukraine. Can you imagine if the Chinese said, Lower Manhattan is Chinatown, so we'll just annex that because there are a lot of Chinese there and they speak our language there, or in Little Italy. We're going to take Italians, we're going to take Little Italy because there are a lot of Italians. It's silly. So I think I understand what the president's trying to do. And then listening to the Canadian leaders, it almost sounds like we're a sports conference. They want Oregon and California and Washington to include in the Canadian conference, and we want something else. I'm looking forward. I saw Jerry Baker on one of the shows earlier who said, look, I'm looking forward to the president getting to the governing phase. And to your point, this is a time where he has been dominant and President Biden has not really been seen. I'm looking forward to him having to govern and really having to get more serious because I think this notion of taking or buying Greenland from Denmark when Denmark says no, or annexing Canada, again, I get the most favorable light part of it, but we've got serious
issues. It's so fantastic.
Issues here, and I'm looking forward to, and I'm rooting for the president to deal with the serious issues in a successful way.
Well said, whatever that was. So, Roseanne, what I love about this whole situation is that Trump could just bring something up and say, well, let's just see what happens. Can we buy this? How much does that cost? And people laugh, but then you go, wait a minute, it's actually happening.
Well, it actually is not the first time this has happened. They're calling the president-elect, bananas and crazy for coming up with this idea. But by the way, this is not the first time that America's tried to buy Greenland. Back in 1867, Democratic President Harry Truman tried to buy Greenland for $100 million, which would be about a bill in our day and age, $1 billion. Didn't happen. Obviously, still very important. And as you mentioned, Jesse, has a lot of minerals. Very important for our country. I think the president may be onto something.
Yeah. What do you say, Dana? I feel like the Trump effect has moved beyond our borders, and people are kind of getting into it.
Well, I think that he this is happening all over the Western world. Name a government that's doing well under the left's socialist policies.
Yeah.
Not Germany.
Nope.
Not England. Yeah, certainly none of them are actually thriving. Now, don't at me with your GDP. But Trump has the wind at his back, and he won. And look at Trudeau. If you look at the GDP for Trudeau and America, it has separated. Like, there's no wonder he has sunk like a stone when it comes to his popularity. The other thing I would think about is Richard Nixon. They said he had that madman theory, and this is sort of this as well. There is no way that anybody would actually be talking about America buying Greenland or Canada or changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America if Trump didn't have the wind at his back. And all of these other countries are going, is he serious? Are we next? And they're keeping everyone on their toes. And it reminds me of one quick story about David Remnick's a writer for The New Yorker, and he had an opportunity to meet these North Koreans who work at the UN, but they have to stay in a little office, and they're supposed to report back every day. So David Remnick, the reporter, got granted
He's serious today, yeah.
access to go and do this interview. He was going to go to North Korea, maybe get to see the leader. But the whole time during the interview, the only thing these North Korean diplomats did was say, what do you think Trump means?
Right.
What does he say? Like, when he says this, what does this mean? Because they didn't know how to translate it back to their
He's very secret today.
leader, and they thought they might get executed if they couldn't.
Zelensky said that when he talks with Trump, other world leaders will ask him what Trump said.
Exactly.
And Zelensky said, no one ever does that with anybody else he talks to. Joe Biden.
But that's all today. See my previous video and subscribe my channel. Write your opinion in comments. This today, the fight because the President-elect Donald Trump were Michael Ledger on new conference weeks before the takes off. Okay.
Wind at his back, but that's from
It's
the
all today.
fiber.
Bye-bye.
It's really good for you.
It is good.
Write your opinion.
Click here to
So very
subscribe to the
interesting. Fox News today. Bye-bye.